All right, what's going on, guys? So I am always getting asked this question, which is scoliosis and working out, scoliosis in the gym. Are there things that I should be doing? Are there things that I should be avoiding? And this is the thing. I've kind of narrowed it down to three bigger topics that I want to go over. These are your three baseline rules to follow when it comes to movement in general. And this isn't just about scoliosis, this is about the human body, but it very much applies to scoliosis as well. So, rule number one, no pain, no gain. Okay, old school thought pattern, which is if I do these exercises and I'm feeling pain, I can push through it and eventually my body will overcome it and get stronger and better. And that is a horrible, horrible plan because pain is your body's way of telling you that this exercise, this movement is not the movement or the exercise that you should be doing. Something is wrong. There's faulty movement patterns and mechanics involved here. Now, sometimes if you keep pushing through it and pushing through it and pushing through it, sometimes there's a chance that you don't necessarily feel that pain any longer. But what ends up happening is the body has that faulty movement pattern, right? Remember that our body's a living organism and it's designed to adapt. And the adaptation process is what confuses so many people from understanding whether or not they are actually getting better functional results or they're leveraging the body's ability to adapt. And it's really the body that is creating the magic here. But the problem is the body adapting, it doesn't necessarily adapt towards better functionality. Okay, so you can push through these exercises and your body's going to figure out how to do it. But instead of fixing the faulty movement pattern, it shifts the faulty movement pattern somewhere else and creates a new faulty movement pattern. So that area feels better, but another one changes and feels worse. So obviously there are more ways to understand that at a deeper level, and that's something that I do when I'm working with clients. But it takes a little bit longer and there's more to that. There's more rules involved, more practices. But no pain, no gain. Just understand that pain is your body's way of telling you that there are faulty movement mechanics here, and you should switch to something else. There are movements out there that are not going to cause that pain. Okay. Now, that's the first rule. Number two, symmetry. Remember that the body's original optimal design works best when symmetrical, when both sides are working and functioning the exact same way. Now, when you're doing exercises in the gym and movement in general, as you know, you do not feel symmetrical in a lot of different ways. Everybody knows that they have certain movements where this shoulder feels different than this shoulder, this hip feels different than this hip. Whatever it is, when you're looking at approaching exercises in the gym, you want to make sure that the exercise that you're doing is making your body within the movement feel either more symmetrical. You want the movement to make you feel more symmetrical. Okay, both sides, if you're doing it, it feels even from one side to the other, all throughout the body. And if that's the case, that's something that you probably can continue doing. As opposed to movements where you're doing it and you're feeling your body getting super tight on one side and not on the other, right? You're feeling the asymmetry increase as you're going through the exercise. So you want to make sure that you're not doing movements that are like that are going from more symmetrical to less symmetrical. You want to stick with movements. And again, this is all about experimentation. That's why, you're not going to get this right in the beginning. It takes time to develop. But these are better guidelines to go by that's making sure you're picking and choosing and learning with better functionality in the mindset, right? So you're picking and choosing exercises that are creating more balance and more symmetry within those movements. Also, I forgot this on rule number one. The last thing about rule number one is if you're doing something, this is the no pain, no gain. If you're doing an exercise and it starts off kind of questionable with the pain, but as you're doing it, it clearly is moving in the direction of better and more symmetrical, keep doing that movement. That is a fantastic movement for you to be doing. So let's go to rule number three, which is the equal effort rule. So when you feel the imbalances from left to right, it is most common thing in the world, and people do this all day long, which is they feel their imbalances and they're manually trying to position their body to create and find balance. And as all of you know, the more you do that, the less balanced you feel, because we're not actually addressing the functional issues that are causing these imbalances in the first place, right? So when you think about the exercises in the gym, taking your body into the exercise and you're doing something that is clearly asymmetrical, it's not helping symmetry, it's feeling imbalanced, you do not want to try and find that balance. You don't want to feel like I'm doing a shoulder press and this shoulder feels like it's doing the right thing and this shoulder feels like it's doing the wrong thing. The reason why you don't want to do that is because you don't know that, and it's not about your shoulders. The things that you're feeling in your shoulders, remember, they're connected to the rest of the entire body. So what's happening there is not necessarily their fault. So if it's imbalanced, it might be things going on in your pelvis and the connection between the rest of your body, but it's not actually a shoulder problem. So if you're doing these shoulder presses, okay, and you feel very different, you feel like this is the one that's doing it right and this is the obstructed one, you're wrong. It's not that's the case, okay? It's not one side's doing it right and one's doing it wrong, okay? Because we don't necessarily know what's right. Maybe this one feels like it's more right, but again, it's not what's actually happening. So don't try to assume that you know which one's right and which one's wrong. So the rule number 3, the equal effort rule, is whatever you do on one side, do on the other side. If you feel like this is the wrong side and this is the right side and you're making adjustments here, you have to make the exact same adjustments here. So if you're gonna really crank this and push hard, you better really crank this other side too. It's gotta be equal effort on both sides. That's the point where you can determine, as I'm doing it, and I know I'm doing equal effort. I know I'm loading both sides the same. I'm doing, like, from the effort perspective. I'm not trying more, doing something different on one side than the other. If it's happening that it's different as I'm doing equal effort, and it's different anyways, that's how you know that's not the right movement. Okay? So if you're doing equal effort and then things start to balance out, the exercise is doing what it's supposed to. And go based off of the exercise. Don't try to manipulate it yourself, because you're too close to you. You're in your own body, and it can be very confusing, because again, what's straight to you and what balanced to you feels like you're imbalanced. So we lose connection with what balanced actually feels like. We don't actually really know. And it's a developed skill to understand more about that. So equal effort rule, do equal effort on both sides, and then that will determine whether or not you want to be doing that exercise or not, based on, is it moving in the direction of feeling the same or is it not? And at first, by applying these 3 rules, yes, you might go into your movements and the exercises you're doing in the gym and go, oh my God, I had no idea that now I'm feeling all kinds of imbalances and I'm feeling things. And you might be omitting a lot of movements and exercises, and that's okay. This isn't an overnight process, right? These are guidelines of how you can do self-assessment, how you can learn to listen to your body instead of try and manipulate it and control it. This is what I mean by learning to listen to your own body. And this is the approach that I apply with all of my clients. And obviously we have other tools, additional tools and tests and exercises and movements and controlled variables, because we've got this process down by now. But when you're in the gym and you don't have those tools, you still have so much that you can do. And these are the guidelines that you want to go based off of. So again, rule number 1, no pain, no gain. Don't do things that hurt. Rule number 2, symmetry. Do things that make your body feel more symmetrical, not less symmetrical. And then number 3, equal effort rule. Don't try and fix the asymmetry when you find it. Just do the exercise with equal effort, and if it decides that it can fix, if it does get better, keep that exercise. If it doesn't get better, change and omit it, and try something different. All right, guys, those are my 3 rules for exercise in the gym with scoliosis. Thank you for listening. Comment below if you have any questions. Take care.